In this video, I will discuss another component of the SS Progress app, the Evaluation tab. The purpose of this tab is to allow the user to easily assess current or final study performance in relation to the previously determined progression criteria. In the first column, we have objective, where the user can populate these with text that describes the objectives in their study, likely being the same objectives from the previous tab. For each objective that is entered, a plot will begin rendering on the right-hand side of the screen, with the objective shown within that plot. For each objective, you will also need to enter the red upper limit, our RUL, and also our green lower limit, GLL. And as you do this, the proportions will begin rendering inside the graph area under each objective's name. You will also see that it says the objective is currently equal to NA. This is because we need to input the observed data, our numerator and denominator, for each example. Doing so will calculate the current observed proportion in the final column, and the same value will then also be showed above the red, amber and green line when rendered, with a black arrow also showing the location of the proportion in relation to the previously outlined red upper and green lower limits. You will also see within the amber region there will be a red cross. This is the critical value for rejecting the null hypothesis for the objective as described in other videos. This is reactive to the inputs provided and can be toggled on or off under the additional plot options. If the arrow showing the current proportion is below the red line, the objective is in the red zone and not feasible. If it is between the red and the green zones, it falls into the amber zone and will need either major or minor amendments, depending on whether the current proportion is below or above the red cross. If the arrow is amber and below the red cross, there are major amendments required. If it is amber and above the red cross, then only minor amendments are required, as the objective is statistically significant, and we have evidence to reject the red cutoff that was previously determined. If the arrow is above the green line, no amendments are required for this objective, and there is still evidence to reject the red cutoff, as the observed proportion will always be above the red cross if the outcome is green. There are additional options also available. First, there is the option to adjust the alpha value. This is to be consistent with the value used in the sample size calculation. There is then the additional plot option of displaying a lower confidence interval for each objective. And this, alongside the red cross, can be shown together. Again, for consistency, if the lower CI option has been specified, then the user can choose the distribution that this interval is based upon, using either the normal approximation or the binomial exact approach. Finally, there is the option to add a custom title, adjust the plot height and width to save adjusting the plot size outside of the application, and then also to add dotted vertical lines to the plot to assist in reading off the proportions. I will now go through an example, specifically example 1 from within the examples tab. To begin with, I will add the objective names. These are recruitment uptake, follow-up, and treatment fidelity. The plot is now rendered and it contains 3 objectives. Next, I will add our red upper limit, our RUL, and green lower limit, GLL, for each objective. These are 0.2 and 0.35, 0.65 and 0.85, and 0.5 and 0.75. Now we will add the observed values for the numerator and denominator for each objective. These are 70 and 167, 57 and 70, and finally 24 and 35. Our randomization target was 70 from the sample size calculator. To achieve this, anticipating a 35% recruitment uptake, which is our lowest good outcome, the lower limit of our green zone, we required a sample size of 200. However, the target of 70 recruited participants was achieved from a sample size of 167, showing a recruitment uptake of 42%. Therefore, the recruitment process worked while sitting within our green zone. For our follow-up, our denominator is our randomized sample of 70 participants. This remains fixed as this was the target for the study. Of these 70, 57 participants return their questionnaires, which results in a follow-up rate of 81%. This places the outcome in the amber region for the follow-up objective. As we have a 1-to-1 allocation ratio, meaning the participants are equally allocated to both the intervention and control, 35 of the random sample were the focus of our final objective, our treatment fidelity. Given our denominator was 35 and 24 of those 35 received the correct treatment, our final objective has a proportion of 69%. Once again, this sits within the amber region for the objective. Our alpha value does not need to change here, as this is consistent with the alpha value used in our sample size calculator. I will include the lower confidence limit interval for this, using the normal approximation, as this was what was used in the sample size calculator. I will add a custom title to our plot, and I will also add the vertical line so we can easily read off the proportions. So what does this mean? Well, we can see that across our 3 objectives, recruitment uptake was in the green zone, while follow-up and treatment fidelity were both in the amber zone. Specifically, these 2 objectives in the amber zone were in the amber-green zone, meaning that they sat above the critical value, the red cross, for rejecting the null hypothesis for each objective, meaning they are statistically significant, and therefore they only require minor amendments. The current recruitment methods in the study are successful and do not require any adjustments. However, there would need to be some minor amendments made to the follow-up participants over the timeline of the study, and to the processes in place when providing the treatment plans to the children as outlined in the study protocol. If suitable adjustments could be made, there is evidence to suggest that moving to a full or main trial would be feasible.